Well, there aren't many things like sport. It's either sport or it isn't.
Well, sport. Well,
Fine.
when certain players get injured, you know, like the likes of Brian Robson, it's well reported and there's a lot of hoo-ha created, you know, whether he's going to be fit in time for the next match or whatever.
Well, this is understandable. I'm told that he's the captain of the England team.
Well,
what?
When there's a player of another team, say Liverpool, Everton, or any other team at the top of the league is injured, nothing's made about it.
Indeed, but we only have one England team and we only have one captain. So it is inevitable that that captain will attract a lot of publicity. I would have thought even a football fan could have worked that out for himself. Hello, Tracy.
Hi, Alan. You know that person that sent you that book tonight that was on about
That
callers
delivered the book, yes.
giving you abuse and all that?
I'm sorry?
She was on about callers giving you abuse now she didn't like it.
Well, I suppose so, yes. Go on.
Well, you said that. Well, I mean, I agree with it, but do you not think it's totally controversial? Controversial?
I don't think I'm controversial, but
No.
I am frequently told that I am controversial, so I suppose that I must be.
Well, what about that lad last night that was on? He was on about 11:45, and he was talking about the budget. And when he wouldn't say the word tax, and when he wouldn't say it, you took an absolute fit on him. And I mean, wow, big deal, you know. He didn't say the word tax.
So?
Well, I mean, why did you take a fit on him?
Because he was rejecting the concept.
What, in what way?
Well, if you don't understand, Tracy, then I'm not going to spend time trying to explain it to you.
Well, and then as well last night, there was that lad on talking about red wedge. You know, Paul Weller and everyone.
Yes, I know what red wedge is.
Yeah, and you said, oh, you needn't bother explaining what it was, because everybody knew. Well, I didn't know then.
Well, you know now.
I know, but I didn't know then, did
Well,
I?
it has done you some good, hasn't it?
Anyway.
It has given you an experience of seeking out knowledge.
Yeah,
It's been good for you. Hello, Ted.
Hi, Alan. I've got a little bit of a problem here. I don't know if you can help me out on it or not.
And now
About 10 years ago, I hope you can, but it's really bad. About 10 years ago, a friend of mine and myself decided to move from the Midlands up to Blackpool, yeah? And last week I found out he's getting married on June the 7th, yeah? Now, he's still married. We left Derby because he'd had a fallout with his wife. They'd only been married, by the way, for about 3 months.
So your friend is about to commit bigamy?
Yeah, and, but there's only me knows about it because there's only, as I say, me and him come to Blackpool.
Well, what would you like to do about it?
Well, I don't know what to do.
What would you like
because
to do?
They're dead happy together, right?
What would you like to do?
Well, I really don't know. Well, when you say what would I like to do, I'd just like to see... I know he's happy now, yeah, with this girl he's with. And
Ted, would you like to just concentrate your mind and tell me what you would like to do about it? What you would like, ideally, is that he wasn't married before.
Yes, very much.
Well, we've no control over that, have we?
No.
That is water under the bridge. To your certain knowledge, he has not managed to get a divorce?
To my knowledge, yeah, I don't really ask him just in case.
To your certain knowledge?
To my certain knowledge, I don't think he has, no.
I'm sorry.
Got a divorce yet.
Right. The question, to my certain knowledge, means do you know absolutely? And the answer to that is no, you do not know absolutely.
I do not know absolutely.
Right. Now, Ted, you have a choice, don't you? You can either approach your friend and say, hey, when did you get divorced? And he may well lie to you. He may well tell you the truth. But he will at least, in some way, pacify your conscience. Or he'll say, stuff you. Well, if he's that kind of friend, who cares
He's not
anyway?
having as a friend, yeah. So what you suggest?
Alternatively, you can wait till he gets married and call the cops.
That wouldn't be very nice, would it?
Quite. You can attend the wedding, and when they say, if anyone knows of any impediment to this, you can get up and say, I do, the bugger's already married.
Yeah,
that won't go down too well.
Not very well at all, no.
And you could approach his fiancée and say, you know he's married, don't you? Now, which of those? Now, come on, Ted. Or... the final one, you can denote.
You're making me laugh here, and I didn't want to laugh. I wanted to be, like, serious. You know,
okay, but
really
it's all right, because it is...
heavy.
But it is heavy, but quite honestly, there aren't that many alternatives when you start eliminating them.
Yeah, what you mean, yeah.
You end up with either approach your friend and say, when did you get married? When did you get divorced? Yeah?
Yeah.
Or You do nothing. Now, if you do nothing,
I've got to live with that, yeah.
you've got to live with that when they bung him in the slammer in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
So, where do your...
What keeps me going is like, well, maybe they'll never find out because it's like in the Midlands, which is Derby. It's a fair old way from here, isn't it? The chances of them finding out are very slim indeed, unless I open my big mouth. Now, if I don't open my big mouth, it's probably, as you say, in 10 years' time, I get in a lot of trouble over it.
Well, you won't get in any trouble because you can relax in the inaccurate belief that, as far as you're concerned, he must have got divorced. He wouldn't be marrying otherwise, would he?
True, yeah. But I know the guy, he's a bit of a rumbug, you know, he's one of these that could do that sort of thing.
Fine, but it's not your
But
job.
at the same time, he's a really nice lad, you know, I like him a lot.
Well, what do you want to do about it? At the end of the day, I
I'm
think...
phoning you to give me a little bit of, you know, I probably need a shove in the right direction.
Well, it seems to me you have a choice of two realistic alternatives. You're not going to turn up at the wedding and holler, are you?
No, really, no.
You're not going to tell her his fiancé, are you?
No,
Right.
She's nice.
You're not going to call the cops, are you?
No, don't like
Right.
them.
So you're left with two of the five alternatives. One is to approach your friend quietly and slip into the conversation casually, which is easy done when two blokes are having a drink together. Hey, when did you get rid of that old cow down there? God bless us.
Yeah.
I don't remember you getting shut of here. And he's got 15 pints of loopy juice and he'll say, oh, still got about saying out. Right? Or else he'll say,
I don't want him to say.
fine, but whatever he says, doesn't matter. Now, if he says to you, well, I haven't done, then you say, well, aren't you really taking a big chance? Because it really is quite simple to do so these days.
Is it a very serious offence, that, by the way?
It's a very serious offence.
Yeah?
It's quite
Did you go to
often...
jail for it?
Yes, more than likely.
Making it a lot worse for me now, I tell you.
No, I'm not making it worse for you
No,
at
you're
all.
not. I'm saying the fact that I now know we can go to jail is making it a lot worse for me.
Well, if you like your friend, you have a duty to him.
To approach him quietly.
I think that's probably the
Yeah,
course
but
of
that's
action
the
that's
word,
most
yeah.
likely to produce a sensible result, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
The other alternative is to
never
ignore
actually
it.
been in contact with her, so I think the chances are if he asked for a divorce, she'd probably say yes. I think she's probably thinking about.
Well, he may not even
it.
need to be in touch with her to get a divorce. If it's some 10 years ago, there's desertion or living separately for 5 years. You can get a quicker divorce without ever actually doing anything about it. Indeed, she may well have divorced him.
And he doesn't even know about it. Yeah, 'cause
It may well be that he does know about
Yeah,
it.
he didn't leave a phone in the address, so she probably doesn't know where he is.
Quite, so she may well have divorced him.
So you're saying the best thing to do is to get in touch with him.
No,
have a
Ted,
quiet
I'm
word.
not saying that. I am saying you have two realistic alternatives, or a choice of two realistic
Right, one of them was
alternatives.
to have a word with him, the other one...
Is to do nought.
Right, thanks very much. Bye.
It's all right? It's all right. Hello, Kath.
Hello.
Yep.
Can you settle an argument for me? What's the difference between unlawful and illegal?
Unlawful means it is not permitted by law, and an illegal is a very poorly bird.
Oh, tell Bruce that one.
Good night. How do Bob, I think it was?
Hello, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is me, Bob. Can I just like to talk about the education cuts made by the present Conservative government concerning student grants? Now, I'm currently at Oxford University.
Can we just establish the grounds for this conversation? The truth is, if I remember correctly, Bob, that the grants have not been cut. They actually have not been increased in line with inflation. Is that so?
Oh, yeah. But as I say, in real terms, then they have been
Well,
cut.
now you're introducing new words to make the statements correct. We don't want the
Yeah,
people
okay,
of Lancashire
yeah,
running in
I
horror
appreciate
thinking
that, yeah.
that students have had their grants cut. They just haven't got the rise they wanted.
Yeah, I appreciate that, yeah. Well, I'm currently at Oxford University, and there's a friend of mine who's, he's a real gifted lad, but because of these, in real terms, the cuts, he'll not be able to continue his course next term, because there's an approximate decrease in real terms with his grant of about £70, and also, in the holidays at the moment, we're able to claim rent rebates. Now, this won't occur next term for him, or next, academic year, and so it'll mean him dropping out. Now, surely the Conservative government...
But if it meant him dropping out, then, Bob, allow me to suggest that it would mean everybody dropping out, because the money is the same.
Oh, no, but, I mean, the student grants are not really relative to the... well, I suppose they are in a way, not relative
to the...
Bob, are you suggesting that the colleague student of yours is unique?
I'm not saying mute, no, but he's the example that I'm quoting at the moment.
Well, is he unique?
Well, I wouldn't know, because I don't know about other examples, you see. I say that that's the example I'm quoting at the moment.
Well, how many people of his year are dropping out next year as a result of the grants?
Well, certainly on my course, there's just him.
Just him. And how many people are on the course?
On our course currently, there's about 70, but in our
70.
actual group, there's about 40 odd. And I don't know.
In your group,
I
there's
couldn't
40
actually
odd.
quote about the other group, apart from that. But I mean,
So 1 in
though,
40 works out at what? 2%?
Yeah, but surely...
So 98% will be able to continue.
Yeah, but what about that 2%? What will they
Oh,
think?
fine, okay. The 2% suffer the loss of the ability to get the qualification.
Yeah.
Perhaps what we need to do is examine why 98% can manage on the grant and why the 2% can't.
Yeah, I agree. Well, certainly this bit of legislation introduced by the Conservative government doesn't help that at all. So they're not...
Well, perhaps we need to examine, it seems, despite your obviously very great education, Bob, you have an inability to understand statements. Perhaps we need to examine why the 98% can manage on the grant and why the 2% can't.
Yeah, certainly. Well, surely the government...
Well, would you like to give me some suggestion why this 2% is incapable of managing on a grant that seems adequate to 98%?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, that's not my argument.
Well, it may well not be yours, but that is the one you have before you. You are an intelligent person.
Yeah,
Well, would you like to use some of that intelligence to answer a fairly straightforward question?
Yeah, well, certainly, yeah. I say I appreciate what you mean in there.
Well, would you like to answer the question?
Oh, the question being why 98% can carry on,
Yes.
and that just why that 2% is the exception.
Well done, Bob. After only 4 statements, 4 times we've said it, you've managed to grasp it. Well done. You have my undying admiration.
Cheers, yeah.
What are you studying?
Sorry?
What are you studying?
I'm studying geographical sciences.
Are you indeed?
Yep.
And I bet you don't even know where you are now.
I
You don't know where you are in this argument. In fact, you've lost it. How do, Peter?
Oh, good morning, Alan.
Well,
I've been listening recently to your opinions and other
Good.
people's opinions
what do you want, Peter?
about war and fighting.
What do you want to tell us?
Yeah, surely it's one of the most natural reactions for an animal, which primarily we are. We might be a highly evolved animal.
Excuse me, Peter, there's no primarily about it. We are an animal.
Well, we are an animal. But surely it's one of the most natural reactions for an animal is to fight.
In every society, there are certain things which, whilst they could be gleaned to be natural, are not natural when they're brought about for unnatural reasons.
Right.
And to fight, yes, that is a natural reaction. It is a natural way of defending an individual's territory. Man has gone beyond that and has actually organised himself in such a way that fat, idle, nothing-value politicians send young men who know no better to kill other young men who are sent there by other fat, idle, value-nothing politicians. Now, if you're telling me that is natural,
Well,
allow me to tell you that you are wrong.
but surely if you transfer that to the natural world, surely the same things apply to the animal community.
And which brigadiers do you know that wear fur on their back?
Well, you get, say, for example, in a bee colony,
Yes.
you get a queen, which you could relate to a politician or whatever.
No, she's not elected. It is a natural...
Well, that's what I mean.
What is what you mean?
It's,
Are you
it's a
suggesting
natural thing to do.
Are you suggesting that Mrs. Thatcher is our natural leader?
No. But
I'm sorry.
you can't.
I rather thought you're drawing the analogy, not I. You chose the beehive.
Yes.
Right. Now,
you
Mrs.
put
Thatcher,
it in.
I'm sorry, I would like to point out to you something. entirely wrong with your analogy. And that is that Mrs. Thatcher does not reproduce all the English people.
No,
But the queen bee does reproduce all the other bees.
Yes, unfortunately, the bees haven't got the power to vote, you see. That's what I'm getting at.
I see. So is that what we
So
need to
if
do?
you can relate-
So you're suggesting to me that if we gave the vote to the bee, we would have nuclear weapons in the hives?
Well, if the animal...
Peter,
Yeah.
massage your head, because your brain needs a lot of help. Hello, Keith.
Hi, good morning, Alan. I just wanted to add a little bit of something to the conversation you had with the homosexual. He did make reference to Christianity, and that's my point in ringing. So if he wants to be a Christian, he cannot, as long as he carries on the course of life he's carrying. The Bible.
By your definition...
No, by the Bible.
Where does it say in the Bible?
Oh, look it up. It's in there.
Just tell us.
It's in there.
Tell us where it is. What does it say?
It's condemned all through
Tell
the
us
Bible.
where it does it. Tell us what it says.
Reading about Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and Gomorrah. Go
Yeah.
on. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, you just read
Peter,
it.
if you do not know... Sorry, Keith. If you do not know, say so. If you do know, tell us.
I know where it is, but it's too long to...
I am not about to start reading the Bible yet again,
No.
Keith. Now,
But
you are telling us,
but the
first of all...
the message
First,
is...
allow me to tell you something, Keith, that the Old Testament, from which you are quoting, is not the basis of Christianity.
No, and
Christianity is based on the New Testament.
Yeah, but it's also...
I'm sorry, listen. Ill beholds someone not to listen when they're trying to make a point. Now, you are saying that Colin cannot be a Christian because he is homosexual. When I ask you why, you quote a non-Christian document. You quote the Old Testament. The basis of Christianity is, as I'm sure you are able to believe, Keith, is the basis of Christ's teachings.
Yeah.
Christ's teachings are related in the New Testament.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
would you like to tell me where in the Christian Bible, as opposed to the Jewish version thereof, where in the Christian Bible does it condemn homosexuality?
It does. It condemns it.
Well, why did you not... Well, would you like to
through.
tell me where?
All through. Well,
I see.
As I say,
So when I asked you for the example before, you chose to specify one example in the non-Christian Bible, when in fact the whole of the Christian Bible does it. I suggest to you you're either a very poor arguer or a very poor reader.
No,
I
well,
think the latter.
the message is for him, not for you.
Indeed.
And
Well,
if he is
I really don't give a toss about what message you want to communicate to him, Keith.
If he's
You will
lis-
first of all validate your right to convey that message.
If he's
And
lis-
to this moment, you have not done so.
If he's-
If all you want to do is to manifest your ridiculous, jumped-up, trumped-up ideas created by some half-baked vicar in your church, then I suggest you push off.
No.
Now, if you would like to substantiate what you've got to say, then we're happy to hear it. But if all you've got is prejudice, then shove it up your nose and clear out.
No, there's no prejudice.
Then let us
No
hear
prejudice.
what you have got to say to substantiate your point of view. And the bullshit that it is all the way through the Bible doesn't wash here. Give me chapter and verse or push off.
Well, as I said, the message...
Keith, you will push off. I'm sorry you're afraid of homosexuality. Perhaps you need to examine your own sexuality. It seems you've gone. Never mind, we're well shut of you. Hello, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Good night. Unfortunately for him, and on this occasion for all of us, Mr. Reagan doesn't listen to this programme.
Devil called love. We got all the devil called love.
For new and used cars, look no further than Barker's. With 150 used cars in stock and ready to drive away from an incredible £100 to £10,000. Scoop purchase of 1986 Cherry and Sunny models means unbelievable and unrepeatable prices while stocks last. For unbeatable deals on Nissan vehicles, hurry down to Barker's Nissan, Ribbleton Lane, Preston. Phone Preston 704 704. People buy better at Barker's.
Barker's Preston for Nissan.
Calling all hoteliers, restaurants and guest houses. Clegg & Phillips of 62 Russell Road, Cleveleys are your local trade butchers who built up a reputation for offering the finest quality meats and poultry at the keenest prices. For current prices, call Clegg & Phillips High Class Butchers on Blackpool 865 885. That's 865 885. Don't forget there's free delivery for hotels, restaurants and guest houses throughout the Fylde.
Some of you may remember my discovery of Qualitatis Nos Predidatus, better known as quality frozen food at Bennett's. Well, on my return to this massive modern sanctuary of excellence, I find that the species has proliferated. Here we have the most enormous range of frozen food in the north, all carefully selected by Bennett's, much of it prepared on the premises. There's no other freezer centre like it. Bennett's Frozen Food, where shopping's a pleasure, at Kent Street, Preston, behind B&Q.
Bennett's Frozen Foods.
Here's a simple question. Would you like to be a star on the radio? Well, anything is possible with Red Rose and our Search for a DJ contest in association with Citizen Newspapers. If you win, you'll end up presenting a 1-hour show on Red Rose. And after that, who knows, there may be even more Red Rose work for you. If you think you're the one we're looking for, just send us a cassette that proves you're the greatest. Details can be found in the Citizen, along with an entry form. In fact, entries won't be accepted without one. The closing date is the 11th of April, so let those C60s roll.
Ring him if you dare.
Allan Beswick, the late night show.
And the telephone number once again is Preston 561,000 at 9 minutes to 1.
We'll make you laugh, we'll make you smile. You know you'll have some fun on Red Road 301.
Back to the lines. How do Cliff?
I do, Alan. Yeah, having heard people in the past on your programme arguing the case for hanging, I felt compelled to lend my voice to the argument. Now, I know I've heard you normally come back with the point of what happens if you hang an innocent man. Could I ask what would happen, or what does happen, if you let a guilty man out after having killed, who then goes and kills again? Who should be held responsible then, the guilty man or the people who let him out?
The answer to that is obviously the guilty man, but we must examine the judicial process and indeed examine the correction process as to whether that problem can be reduced. But that is no reason for taking life merely to prevent someone else from doing it.
No, well, one of the reasons I put this was I was reading a case in the paper today that is coming up for parole tomorrow. And there's a good chance that the guy could be released again. And it says this guy actually killed a 14-year-old girl, having been released from prison 9 months earlier. And one of the directors of the National Association of Mental Health, who deals with these tribunals, has said that the number of murders committed by former hospital patients during the course of a year runs to about 5. And he adds that he thinks this is a risk worth taking. I find this incredible. I find it almost as bad as turning around and saying that hanging an innocent man is a risk worth taking for hanging them.
I agree with you, except if we are to take a risk, we must take a risk which doesn't require society being the same as a murderer. The consequences of society decreeing that life is expendable are greater in their morality than the consequences of society saying we will not take life ever, and that has an inevitable consequence.
But I feel compelled to say, well, what's the answer? I mean, should we all be put at risk so often? 5 times a year? I mean, it seems...
Allow me to tell you, Cliff, allow me to tell you, Cliff, that despite hanging, people were at risk considerably at risk.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying that it was a deterrent. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, really, if hanging is not a deterrent, then what is a deterrent?
Well, many things are not a deterrent.
Uh-huh.
There is no viable deterrent, to be perfectly honest. There is no perfect deterrent.
Well, that's what I feel. I mean, if hanging is obviously the ultimate, and if that's not going to be a deterrent, then I don't see that there is a deterrent.
Then, on that basis, there is no deterrent. Fine, that doesn't take us any further forward in this conversation.
Well,
what we have to consider is, does morality start with the individual, and therefore collectively as a society, or is morality something that society can just say, poo, 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 poo? It doesn't matter.
It's an incredible argument, isn't it?
No, it's not that incredible. I don't have any difficulty with it at all, Cliff.
Doesn't society have the right to be protected from these people?
Society does have the right to be protected, but it also has an obligation to be protected in such a way as to be moral.
Oh,
and
yeah.
taking life, I'm sure you will agree, Cliff, taking life is immoral.
It's totally immoral. But having
Therefore,
said
society, who decide what is moral and immoral, must not be seen to be immoral. And taking life, as you said, Cliff, your words, not mine, taking life is totally immoral.
Totally immoral, yes.
Therefore, society cannot afford to show itself to be immoral.
So,
Are you suggesting that
right.
society can show itself to be immoral?
Oh, no. No,
So
not at
you
all.
agree with me, then?
I do. I agree that taking life is totally immoral.
In that case,
the only
you...
reason I bring up an argument for hanging
Well,
is
Cliff, you
because-
cannot have an argument for hanging
There
if
is.
you believe it would be wrong. And if it's immoral, it's wrong. And society surely cannot be seen to be immoral. But it would be so seen if it contemplated and indeed reintroduced hanging for murder.
The reason I said such was because I thought that the only alternative to it was to lock somebody away and throw away the key. But then if you did that and took away no hope of parole, then the chances are great of a bloke killing a prison warder. What's he got to lose?
Right.
Or what
The
if you
answer
put
to
them
that
at
is,
risk?
of the two, the second, the lesser of the two evils, as far as I'm concerned. But I don't think we should lock people up and throw away the key. Always. There are times when we must consider on a year-by-year basis or a 5-yearly basis, whatever, whether a person is fit to be released, but we have to come to terms with the fact that that person is still not fit to be released and probably never will be fit. There are classes that spring out of history immediately, such as the Ripper, as he's colloquially become. I don't think Peter Sutcliffe should ever be released. I don't actually think that Ian Brady or Myra Hindley should ever be released on the basis of the information we have available at the moment. But I think the possibility has to be there.
But would you not agree that if a bloke is let out of prison and kills again and is jailed again...
That should be final.
Well, that's right. But, I mean, you still get these cases where blokes are coming up for parole for a second time. It's
Indeed,
incredible.
and I'm not suggesting that that is right, but I don't think killing them is the answer to that problem. The problem has a separate answer, which can, in fact, be adopted.
Uh-huh. Okay, on.
Ta-ra.
Right, bye.
Cliff, thank you. Phil, how do?
Hello, Alan. Bit of advice. Regarding the television licence, is there any law that says if you can adapt your television just to receive, we'll say, ITV and Channel 4, that you should need to pay a licence?
Yes, there is. The law says if your television can receive television programmes, you're required to hold a licence.
What? Channel
Full
4?
stop.
Yeah.
Television programmes, full stop.
Oh. One of
Ta-da. We only do one at a time. Adrian, you're next.
Quiet, please.
That indeed is what it is. The Late Night Show with Allan Beswick through 10 till 2 on Preston 561,000. Adrian will be with us after the 1 o'clock news from IRN in London.
1 o'clock news, this is Bill Bingham.
Because your car ain't right for you.
Brashaw's Car Delights.
New and used, they've got it right. cars with dealer bill. Lowest prices, it's a steal. Bradshaw's have today. 400 cars to drive away. So who you gonna call? Bradshaw. Yeah. Present 54083. There's a car for you at Bradshaw. Who's the biggest Ford dealer? Bradshaw. And where'd you get the best deals? Bradshaw. I can't hear you. Hey, Bradshaw's.
Right. For fresh fish and chips around Preston Town Centre to eat in or take away, look for the Happy Haddock sign.
Wherever you are in Preston Town, you're never far from a Happy Haddock.
Carpets, Easter sale now on. Open Bank Holiday Monday. Hundreds of rows to choose from. Prices from only 50p a square yard. At the Carpet Supermarket, Fletcher Road, Preston.
Ring him if you dare.
Allan Beswick, the late night show.
Preston 561,000, and we're into the final hour.
In the Northwest, you know what's best. Red Rose Radio.
Now, Adrian, you've waited a long time. What have you got to say?
Hello, Alan. What are the side effects of pot and blow in drugs?
I've no idea.
Haven't you any idea?
No.
And can I have a little bit of advice, please?
No. How do Thomas?
Hello, Alan.
Yep.
Good evening. I'd like to talk about drugs here for me, please.
Go on.
Well, not as a whole, one particular drug. Thalidomide. Do you know it?
I know of it, yes.
Well, it used to be given as a sedative to pregnant women quite a long time ago, and it's now illegal. But I've got this book in front of me, and it's got some very distressing pictures of the results of this sedative. Now, what I say to you is, Alan, do you think it should have been allowed? Because there's children here with no feet and hooks as arms. I mean, it's...
You presumably have a point to make, Thomas, rather than all this gratification. Would you like to tell us what that point is?
Well, it's just that I don't think it should have been ever allowed as a sedative.
Well, how would you suggest that it be stopped in advance when people were not aware of the consequences?
But people were.
Are you telling me
the
that
consequences?
Are you telling me that doctors were prescribing that drug in the full knowledge that it would deform fetuses and eventually children?
Well, not a long time ago, because they didn't have medical knowledge of what the drug would do.
Thomas, it was a simple question, and you don't need to overcomplicate it by evasion. Answer the question.
But it's just they didn't have the medical knowledge to know what the drug would.
Then what are you... It is impossible. At the end of the day, it is impossible to know in advance what consequences a drug will have. There are all sorts of trials taken, there are experimentation with animals, there is computer projection and all the rest of the bullshit, but at the end of the day, it has to be tried on human beings. Now, the consequences of that drug are all too evident. But how could they have been foreseen, I ask you?
Pardon? I didn't hear that. Someone was mumbling in the background.
Well, talk to the person that was mumbling. How do Steve?
Hello, Alan.
Yes?
I'd like to talk to you about a shop at the top
You've got
of
the
our-
wrong accent, Steve. How do David?
Hello, Alan. I'd like to talk to you about student grants.
Go on.
I'd like to state, first of all, that student grants in general have gone up by 2% over the last year, whereas inflation has gone up by 6%, so leaving a 4% deficit. Now, as I come from Cardiff, and you yourself have said hello to Dave and Mike from Cardiff.
Is there any relevance in that?
No.
No. Well, we will end there. We don't do dedications on this part of the programme. How do Bob?
How do, Alan? What's green, has got 6 legs, and crawls up and down a drain pipe? A widgie watch.
Oh.
Do you get it, Alan?
No.
Well, it's a bit of an anagram.
I'm sure it is, and I don't wish to pursue it. Is that it? It would seem it is. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Alan. If you went to a school as a student and went to a former student studying O-level history or O-level economics and asked them what they thought each party stood for, you'd get a pretty full response. If you went out in the street and asked some 40-year-old men and women, most of them wouldn't have a clue. I suggest to you, therefore, that the people who don't know what each political party stands for shouldn't be allowed to vote, and it's the students, the people who are under 18, that should.
How old are you, Stephen?
I'm 16.
What does the Social Democratic Party stand for?
They want proportional representation. I'm not studying O-level economics.
What do they stand for, was the question.
All I know is proportional representation.
That's all you know?
Yeah.
I rest my case. Are you happy with yours?
If you would agree that it is the people that understand what each particular party stands for should be allowed to vote, then
I
yes.
suggest to you, Stephen, that nobody fully understands the idiosyncrasies of any political party in its entirety. So, to take your argument to its ultimate end, nobody would be allowed to vote. We would then end up with a pure autocratic society.
Perhaps, then, that the people that should be allowed to the vote are the ones that know, that have a vague idea what each particular party stands for.
I think if you went into the streets and asked Mr. Joe Public, you would find a vague answer.
So he should be allowed to vote?
I'm not suggesting he shouldn't. What we want is an electorate that is mature enough to cast its vote on mature, objective reasons, however emotionally tolerant those reasons might be, or emotionally manipulated they might be, at least on the basis of I am a mature human being and I am able to cast my vote having considered it. I don't think a person under the age of 25 is mature enough to make such massive decisions. Go on, you were going to ask me a question.
If somebody over the age of 25 is relatively unintelligent, and somebody of the age of, say, 14 or 15 is highly intelligent, the 14 or 15-year-old is likely to be more capable of making a sensible decision than
No, they're only more capable. They are only more capable of understanding the information given to them.
Well, surely that makes them more capable of making a decision that is going to affect their lives.
That makes them more capable of making the decision, but they have one degree that is not available to them. One commodity that is not available, that is the most important commodity of all. And that is experience. Experience of just breathing in and breathing out.
What does the experience of breathing in and out have to do with being capable of making
Allow me to tell you that breathing in and breathing out is the major process that one engages in daily. It's called being alive. And the experience of being alive and being responsible for one's own actions is unsurpassable, unchallengeable as being the most important experience of all.
Are you suggesting to me that 14-year-olds are irresponsible?
In a word, yes.
Even when they're intelligent 14-year-olds?
You can be irresponsible and intelligent. Allow me to tell you that I believe President Reagan is currently acting irresponsibly. I don't actually think he's an unintelligent man, but I do think he's a stupid man.
I would say then...
He's 70-odd.
You seem to think that responsibility rather than intelligence is the most important factor in making decisions. I disagree with you.
Well, you can disagree to your heart's content. At 16, your opinion to me is valueless.
Well, there you are.
I know I am.
That I am more intelligent than you. Perhaps I am not got as much experience of life as you have, but I would
Well, what have
I'm
you
more
got to
intelligent.
quantify your intelligence?
Well...
What have you got to quantify it? It's a sensible question.
I know what my intelligence is,
Bob,
through having been alive for 16 years.
Bob, I asked you...
listening to what...
Bob, I asked you what you've got to quantify it. That was a simple enough question. If you would like to answer that question, I'll be happy to hear it.
I cannot give you a measure of my intelligence.
Then
because,
how, if you cannot measure
without
it...
you having known me for a number of years,
Bob,
there is no real way that you can be able to judge the level of my intelligence. I can't say to you I've got so many O-levels, because you would agree with me that O-levels are relatively valueless.
Bob.
I'm not Bob, by the way, I'm Stephen, but...
I see. Well, we have the names wrong here, but it doesn't matter. A few moments ago you made a statement, Stephen. You said, perhaps, indeed you implied, that you, Stephen, have more intelligence than me. Correct? You made that statement.
Yep.
You are now telling me that an assessment of somebody's intelligence is not possible without knowing that person for a long time.
Yep.
Stephen, you don't know me
I've been
at
listening
all.
to you on the radio for a number of years. Well, 1 year.
Thank you. Now, are you actually saying, Stephen, with all your intelligence, that you know a person merely from listening to them on the radio?
I can judge their level of intelligence.
From listening to them on the radio?
Yes.
Stephen, you are a superhuman being, and I bow at your altar.
Thank you.
You're also a gormless little prat. How do... Bobby!
Hello, hello, hello.
Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. How do Alan?
Yes, Alan, the various phone-in programs, whether independent radios such as yours or the t'other side, I wonder whether presenters, if that's the right word, do they realise how much they give away about their background in their answers over a period of time?
I don't know whether others realise I am aware of what I give away about my background, and I can tell you for nout that there is nothing, no answer I have given about me as an individual that I am not aware of and did not give away purposefully. However, reading between the lines, one may be able to make certain decisions about a person's upbringing.
No, not necessarily upbringing, just general background.
Well, if you like, yeah, background
You
then.
want to hear yours?
I will hear your interpretation of it,
Well,
and I will not comment on either
No,
direction.
I don't expect you to, but, just general points. You were in the army, you were once a Catholic, you're married, you were a coach driver, you do not smoke or use alcohol, you are fairly plump, and you're a Porsche, and you listen to World Services.
What was the one before listening to the World Services?
You have a Porsche. I don't know how you pronounce it, the German car.
I don't know where you've got that idea
You
from.
told me that.
I don't have a Porsche.
Well, the car, the German
I know what a German car is, but I don't have a Porsche.
Well, I beg your pardon, but one morning you did say, when you go in your Porsche, you switch on World Service. Because I asked you how you could get World Service. And you said, when you got in your car, Porsche. No, all right. Fair dues.
I really don't ever remember saying that,
Well,
but I must have been pulling somebody's plonker at the time. I think it's fairly common knowledge.
Forget the Porsche. You said, when you got in your car, leave the programme, you switched on the World Service.
Yes.
On medium wave.
Yes. No, on long wave.
Oh, well.
Because it's on where Radio 4 normally is, and I suppose by persuasion and desire, I'm a Radio 4 listener.
I beg your pardon about the Porsche.
It's all right, I drive a Sierra.
You want to hear about the Radio Manchester ones?
No.
No, all right.
I have no interest in the Radio Manchester ones.
No, I
perhaps
listen to them all.
Perhaps you
Take
should
care.
ring them and tell them. Ta-ra.
Cheers.
A Porsche, no less. I should be so lucky. How do Phil?
Hello, Alan. Pacifists, which you profess to be one of. If everyone took the same stance that you do, in the Second World War, we'd all be talking German and doing the goose step now, and there would be no...
Well, just a moment, Phil, if you mean if all the Allies took that point of view,
No,
yes.
I'm not talking about allies, I'm talking about the people that fought. Again...
Well, just a moment. Let me just try to put to you what you said. What you said, Phil, was if all the people in the Second World War were pacifists, we'd be talking German and doing the goose step.
If everyone
Now,
had
I
the
think,
view of being pacifist...
Phil, what I think you meant to say was if one side did. But of course, if they all did...
Yeah, there would be no problem, yes.
Quite.
I
Good
agree
night.
with it.
How do Peter?
Right, Al. I'd like to make a comment on the state of the Daily Telegraph.
Well, do any of us give a toss about the Daily Telegraph?
No, it's...
How many pretentious prats do you think listen to this programme?
Well, I'm not bothered what's
The
in
Daily
it.
Telegraph is a waste of pigging money.
Well, I couldn't care less what's in it.
Well, why are you wanting to tell us about
I'd like to tell you the quality of it since we moved
it?
over
We don't
to...
care a toss about the quality of it.
Oh, since we moved over to the high technology, which, through the unions, it's been held back for many years.
Well, what are you going to tell us?
Well, the state of the quality of the print.
Well, what about it?
Excellent.
Thank you. There. Hello, Suzanne.
Hello, Alan. One or two things in a nutshell. The Irish Sea is the dirtiest, the most polluted in the world, as far as nuclear...
As far as nuclear, yes,
Yeah.
I'm prepared to accept. It's not the dirtiest. I think the Mediterranean takes some beating from that point of view.
Yes, but nuclear speaking. Right, okay, one. Number two, boxing. Now, I know you don't like boxing, neither do I.